Seriously? I'm going to give you 5 rainy day FPV building projects. Let's get started. So rainy day project number 1 is storage solutions. Whether it's making custom cardboard inserts for your storage trays, or even a bigger storage solution like this made completely out of cardboard. Let's have a look at the storage tray inserts first. Now if you like building FPV drones, you've probably got some sort of storage solution like this, some containers or drawers like this that you put your parts in, and I like to make up these cardboard inserts to go inside. It's quite easy, you can just take them out and you can work with the parts on the bench. And then when you finish, just put all the parts back and put it back into the tray again. Right, so to make these boxes is very simple. Just measure the size of your container, then go into Word and use the shape tool. With the shape tool you can set the exact size by going into the menu, and there's another shape that you can use for the tabs as well. Then just print them out on 300 GSM cardboard. Use some craft glue on the tabs, and these little inserts will make it a lot easier to work with your components. And next, how about making your own custom drawers? Of course you can go and buy them if you want to, but you can make your own. All you need to do is go to the hardware, get yourself a couple of sheets of cardboard and start cutting. Mark your pattern out on a piece of cardboard and cut out any corner pieces that you need to. And the cardboard I use is about 3mm thick, so I just like to use the end of a ruler to crease the cardboard, and just makes it easy to fold it up. So this is just a technique I use to make a corner that folds up and joins at 45 degrees. Well, I guess you can get as technical as you want with this. Here's some other drawers I've made where the front actually folds down and then the drawer pulls out. And on these ones I've actually used a magnet, so when you fold the front up again it clips in place with a magnet. And you can even dress your drawers up a little bit with some stickers. Okay, so with our storage solution sorted out, let's get into some soldering and FPV building project number 2. So project number 2 is this. It's a heat sink for XT30 and XT60 connectors. So this is here is just an XT30 or an XT60 connector that's directly soldered to a piece of copper braid, and that acts as a heat sink. Now if you're soldering a connector like this, and it normally happens with XT30 connectors more than XT60 connectors, but you can overheat the pins and they can actually move in the housing and melt the housing. So I just connect the connector like this, and of course it shouldn't happen if you're any good at soldering, but just as a safety precaution I like to use this. I'll just put that there, and that's going to act as a heat sink and stop the pins from moving as well as we solder. Now to make these it's really simple. I just like to pour as much solder as I can into the ends of the copper braid just to seal the ends and keep them together. Just get a good lump of solder on the end of the copper braid there, and then just solder the connector on. And finally just cover it with a little piece of heat shrink. And that's it. It's done. And FPV build project number 3 is this. It's a stack builder. Well, it's actually a VTX adapter, but I'm going to drill it out and make it into a stack builder. What I mean by stack builder is this. I like to design my stacks off the frame and then mount them on the frame later. And you can see here I've got my AIO flight controller, and I've got that mounted onto the stack builder, and I can see all the spacing that I need in the frame, and I can work out what spacing I need between the different boards and also where I'm going to lay the wires. Now in the past I've just been using a piece of wood with a 20 by 20 or 25.5 by 25.5 mount pattern drilled in it, and I'll just use that to design the stacks. But using one of these VTX adapters is actually much more convenient. I can even take a look under the magnifying glass and see underneath the board and just check my spacing and check where I'm going to lay all the wires. Now there's just one problem. While this inner mounting pattern here is M2 and 20 by 20 spacing, the outer mounting pattern is 25.5 by 25.5, and those holes are M1.6. So we're going to have to drill them out to M2, 2mm, so we can use it as a mount adapter. Now sooner or later you're going to need somewhere to put all your drones, and that brings us to FPV build project number 4, the drone rack. Now making a drone rack is super easy. You just need some wood, paint and screws from the local hardware. You can paint the wood first if you want to. Then you just make the base and the uprights, and that's what you're going to attach the mounting boards to. In fact, I actually made a video on how to make a drone rack, and I'll put the card on screen so you can watch that later if you like. Now the best mounting board that I found is this one called Scatters from IKEA, and you can get these mounting hooks there too, and they're just the right distance apart and spacing to mount your frames on. And that brings us to FPV project number 5, building your own FPV backpack. And you know, it isn't hard to build your own backpack. All you need is some foam from your local foam shop and a decent sized backpack. In fact, I've already made a video on how to do this, so I'm going to put a card on screen for you there. You basically measure the parts up and then cut them out, and then just use some special foam glue to glue them all together. Finally, work out where you want to store all of the components in the bag before you glue in the final foam separators. Well, there we go, 5 rainy day FPV building projects. If you made it this far in the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. But we're not finished yet. I want to give you one thing you can buy and one good idea. So the first thing you can buy is this. It's a 5-volt USB fan, and you can just plug this into your computer, and it just gives the right amount of flow across your workbench to get rid of the smoke while you're soldering. In fact, I use this all the time when I'm doing soldering. And you can pick those up quite cheaply on eBay or Amazon. And next is something that I think is a good idea. What I like to do is this. For every drone that I build, I like to keep some data on it. For example, you can see here I've got all the drones that I've built listed down here, and I keep data like some images. I might do a dip all and a dump all of the original CLI, as well as some black box logs, and also some information. Okay, so I might be looking back, maybe this drone is long gone. Now I'm looking back and I'm thinking that drone was really set up well. Now I want to find out what sort of motors and what sort of props I was using. So I just record all of that data here in the file. Also keeps some information about how it flies with different batteries and things like that, and some other notes as well. So there we go. What's your rainy day FPV project? Put it down in the comments and let me know. Till next time, happy flying.